My name's Alex and I'm a former GATE kid, and if you've been keeping up with my videos, you know that I've been doing a deep dive into the GATE program, what happened to us as kids, and what that means for us now. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you may have heard me mention an article called The Illuminati Formula Used to Create a Complete, Undetectable, Total Mind Control Slave. And that is going to be relevant in this video because today I want to talk about mind control, not just for GATE kids, but for potentially an entire generation of humans. And what can we do to understand when we are being mind controlled, to spot it all around us in our everyday lives, and what are some tools that can help us break free from this mind control. One of my favorite tools that I've used is human design. I've also mentioned human design really briefly on my channel, but today I wanted to do a deep dive into it because I truly believe that this is something that can help so many people if we just understood how to use our energy field, if we understood how we operate best and what our specific blueprint is. So why is this relevant? This is relevant because of the control that's happening. And I've also mentioned in previous videos how I believe GATE children were targeted for their psychic senses that they showed in their early developmental years. And they also may have been part of a group of souls known as Indigo children, possibly rainbow and crystal children, maybe part of the blue ray souls. There's a lot of different things that people call them, but basically it's these beings from higher conscious planets that supposedly came to Earth in the 50s, or maybe, I can't remember if it was the 40s or 50s that they supposedly first came, but they've been coming in waves. 70s, 80s, and 90s was probably the culmination of a lot of these souls coming into the planet. And then after that, there were more younger souls who were more, had more crystalline energy. So crystal children and rainbow children. And I got chills right now because I'm noticing this in all of my human design readings. I notice that a lot of people who I read for who are from the 80s and the 90s, they tend to be more set in who they are. They come here with the really strong fire for a mission. They know that they're here for a purpose. And sometimes I even read for people who were born earlier as kind of like the way showers for the Indigo children, holding down the energy they came here before the wave of 80s and 90s. So I'm seeing a lot of those souls. Either it's a little more rare for 60s and 50s, but 70s, a lot of them, and then 80s and 90s probably more came. But why is this relevant? When it comes to human design is kind of a newer pseudoscience that was discovered in 1987, which I also think is significant because that's when that consciousness and the understanding of human design first came on the planet. I think it's interesting because that is also the year that I was born, in 1987. And when I first rediscovered human design in 2020, only about 5 years ago, I intuitively understood exactly what the system was talking about. So what I like about human design, and I'm going to get into how it's relevant for indigo souls and rainbow children, crystal children, and why you should learn it because of how it works in cohesion with the mind control and what makes certain people easier to control than others. I'm going to have to give you a little bit of background of human design and exactly what it is. So a human design is a combination of astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah, Tree of Life, and your auric field and the chakra systems. And if you've ever seen a human design body graph, which I'm going to show you a picture of, a human design body graph almost in a way looks like a battery. You'll see red and black lines, which are known as gates and channels in human design. And you'll see open and defined centers, which is the open center is the squares or the triangles that have the white because they're not filled in, or you will see them colored in, which means they're defined. If you have a lot of undefined or white spaces in your auric field, it means that you are an amplifier of energy. Energy is passing through you and you're amplifying it. You're feeling it. If you have a lot of defined areas of your chart, it means that your presence can be felt and amplified by others. Why is this important? If you were to lay two human design charts next to each other, you'll notice that maybe a person has a black line there where you have a white line, and they have a red line or a white line where you have a red line. And when you guys meet and you overlay the charts, it literally closes a circuit. Think of a battery. Think of a battery whose switch is off and the circuit isn't closed. But when you close the circuit, it creates light. Light equals consciousness. Every time you interact with someone new, you spread new light codes because every single person has a different human design body graph. So every single relationship you have with anyone is going to be super unique, and it's going to activate parts of you that couldn't otherwise be activated or accessed. So that's why it's so important to know your chart, but also for us to get out there and mingle. And the saddest thing that has happened between the GATE program and then just general programming in the nation and probably in the world in general is that it's created a huge part of our population that has become super introverted. As in, we want to stay at home and we may connect on the internet, but it's not the same as physically connecting with our auric fields, because the human auric field is 12 feet in diameter or whatever. So it extends, or I think it's diameter. It extends outside of us about 12 feet. And some people have smaller auras, some are bigger, but think about when you're in a crowded space. Have you ever been able to pick up the energy? You can either pick up fear, you can pick up confusion, you can pick up love, enjoyment, all sorts of things. And that is honestly why a lot of us probably don't like going outside, because for the most part, most of our population, and what I'm realizing as I continue to do more human design charts, younger and younger souls are being born where they have more white in their chart, which means they're very easy to be programmed. So the older souls, just in my experience in the last 5 years reading charts, I've just seen a lot of people older than me who have more of their circuit or more of their centers or circuitry filled in for the most part. And everybody for the most part has certain, we've got blank spaces in our chart, right? Because we're all unique vessels, but some of us are going to have more open spaces and some of us are going to have more defined spaces or defined centers. So what I find interesting is that if you think about the indigo children being here with a really strong sense of purpose, and then you think of crystal children and rainbow children who followed after them, they've got more light in their energy field, aka they're like the next generation of indigos. Basically, the indigos were sent here to question the systems, to overthrow the kind of systems, but to also prepare the world for this incoming wave of souls. And somewhere along the way, there have been organizations that either knew this was coming, or obviously knew it was coming, or they're tapped into some other supernatural, I don't know, energy or whatever, or Nephilim or Archons or whatever, I don't know. But they must have known that this wave was coming, and then they've used everything in their toolkit that you can check out in the Illuminati Illuminati Formula for a complete undetectable mind control slave. You can see in that article all the things that they've used to program an entire generation. It's not just gate kids. Gate kids, I believe, are targeted because they are these special souls who naturally have ESP gifts. And I'm kind of under the belief that pretty much every human on earth has some kind of psychic gift or psychic senses. But for whatever reason, some of us are born naturally knowing that we have them and knowing how to use them. And we have this fire inside of us that makes us want to activate, or some kind of mission that is ignited in our chart somewhere that we're like, okay, I'm going to use these senses in this lifetime because I have a strong sense of purpose. And then there seems to be other people who are waking up more slowly, or maybe they never get a chance to experience their psychic gifts. But what is so cool about human design is that it will tell you where in your energy field and what part of your chakra system is sensitive to energy. So you can look at your chart. If you have an open head center, for example, you could have, or you do have, telepathic community or telepathic abilities. So for instance, if I have an open head center and I'm sitting next to somebody with a closed head center, they can literally implant a thought in me. So that's why I'm good at readings, because especially if I'm connected with a person who has a defined head center, then I can literally reflect back to them what they're thinking about, or what energy is deposited in my mind from them. And if you've ever watched the telepathy tapes, which I have, and they talk about autistic children being able to telepathically communicate with the mother, but not the father. That was maybe the first or second episode. I thought that was really interesting, because immediately I thought of human design. I thought, maybe the mother had the defined headspace and maybe the dad didn't, or something like that, or his energy was more closed off, or something along those lines. What happens when you get two open head centers together, or two defined head centers? Well, the two defined head centers, not necessarily are going to clash, but they might have similar interests or similar inspiration, or it's different. They're unique individuals. But if it's two open head centers, those people are going to be able to read the energy or the mind deposits of whatever area they're in. So are they in a space that's super crowded? Do they live in an apartment complex where their neighbor is right on this wall, sharing a wall between the two beds? So that's something to think about, is especially if you live in a city and there's a lot of close quarter living with people and you feel anxiety a lot. Something to consider is that it might not all the time be yours that you're feeling. So then we've got other areas of the human design body graph. You've got an open throat area, which means that you're either going to amplify somebody or the other people's talkative energy, or you're going to project it. You've got your ajna, which is the belief center. So you're either going to reflect other people's beliefs back to them and be open to different kind of beliefs, or you're going to be set in your beliefs. You've got the emotional solar plexus center, which makes you a literal sponge to other people's emotions, where you amplify and reflect them, or you set the emotional tone in a room and people can feel and amplify you. You have a will center, which only about 7 out of 8 people have a undefined will center, which means they amplify other people's will back to them. So there's only about 1 out of 8 people who have a defined will center. Those are going to be your great public speakers and motivators of the world, who are going to give people that extra boost of energy, who are going to be really good at basically, I hate to say the word bending people to their will, because that sounds like a negative connotation, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative connotation. However, it can be, because duality, and people can use this information for good or for bad. But I choose to believe that the people I'm sharing it with are going to use it for good. So then we also have your root center. So if your root center is active, if it's undefined, you're going to be amplifying root energy. You're always going to feel a little bit wired. You may have a little trouble sleeping, but you're also going to be one of those people at work who's like, can I take on more? Because you're going to be amplifying the energy around you. So you're always going to feel a little bit unsettled, like you have to keep yourself busy. Whereas if you have a defined root center, it turns on and off in waves. Then you've got the spleen center. The spleen is a really interesting center in human design, because the spleen center is your intuition center. It's that very first ping of information that your body is going to deliver to you intuitively, shockingly, right away. It's like the energy that you feel when you go into a bad part of town. You're like, I gotta leave. It's the energy that you might feel if somebody's holding a sword by your head, and you're gonna move your head right before they whack down that sword accidentally, which is a true story that happened to me, by the way. But if you have an undefined spleen center, that means you're amplifying the splenic energy of everybody else's intuition. So your intuition might speak to you in different ways a lot of the time. Whereas if it's defined, there's typically one way that your intuition will speak to you. And then the last one is the sacral energy center. This is, two more, sorry. First, the identity center. If you have an open heart center, an open identity center, you amplify identity. So you can reflect somebody's identity back to them, but it also makes you more of a chameleon. So if you're, a perfect example is somebody who has a new boyfriend every month, and every single month they change their hair or their personality to match their boyfriend and their interests. And that is because that person, if with the undefined identity center, isn't here to be just one person. Part of your soul experience is to experience different identities and to change it up and have fun in that way. But if you have, but another thing about the open identity center is that because the heart center is open, you may struggle to feel your own self-love. That might be a struggle for you in this lifetime. And if you have a defined heart center, self-love and self-confidence comes a lot more easy to you comes easier to you, and you know who you are. And then last but not least is the sacral energy center, which I've talked about in one of my last videos. It's very important. It's our energy of creativity, and I'm going to say sensuality instead of the other word because I don't want to be funny. But sensuality, it means it's our life force energy center. So if you're a generator, it means that this area is active for you. So this is huge. It's the motor that keeps you going. So generators who have a job that burns them out, that they don't like, they're not living according to their energy type. So they're going to be drained, and they're going to drain the people around them because they're that powerful, because it's literally the life force energy center. Another trap that secret societies and government experiments and secret co-ops and psyops and whatever, covert ops and psyops are using against people is programming people to feel like to stay in survival mode and feel like they have to work a lot of jobs that they hate just to get by. There's all sorts of other programming too. So like they flood us, they flood the TV screens, the radio when it was around and, you know, more popular, and then social media. They flood our minds with this stuff because they create our beliefs for us. The school system creates our beliefs for us. Our parents create the belief system for us. So unless you know how susceptible you are to programming, because for some people it's going to be easier to program you than others unless you came with a knowing and a defined center. For some of us it's going to be more difficult. So that's why it's so essential to know this, because it's going to empower you and help you recognize where you're being controlled and like what beliefs are yours. Because if a belief is not yours, it doesn't make it true. Think back to quantum physics. Think back to the double slit experiment that literally proved to us scientifically that reality is created by the observer. The same wave particle was observed by two different scientists and acted differently based on who was observing it. That means so much to our consciousness. And I have been able to prove this to myself. So I know I'm not crazy. And maybe you have too, through manifestation techniques or things that you have, you know, beliefs in yourself that you've broken. Maybe you used to have really bad money mindset growing up, but you did affirmations, you prayed, you surrounded yourself with millionaires and people who are good with money, and then you changed. That's the power we have, and that's the power they don't want us to know that we have. So the other thing about the sacral center, if you have an open center, you're amplifying creative life force energy everywhere. So you might have a problem sleeping if you share a bed with somebody else who has the defined center, because you're going to be amplifying their life force energy center. So it's important for people with open sacral centers to wind down at the end of the day, be in their own energy field more than any other type, because you want to be able to release that life chakra, the life force energy. The other reason why this center is important is because the agenda on the planet that is pushing SEX in our faces all the friggin' time, between OF and between these young influencers who are sleeping with 100 or 1,000 people a day, the POR industry, you know what I'm talking about, that literally destroys your brain and makes it hard and difficult for you to have a relationship with a normal woman. But all of these feminists, you probably don't even want to have a relationship with them because they're too empowered for you. So it keeps the cycle perpetuated. People have lost touch with what a sacred love is, and people, since it's shoved in our faces all the time, it's very hard for us to control our lower natures in that way, and to say, hey, I'm going to be celibate for 6 months, I'm going to be celibate for a year, I'm going to be celibate until I find my life partner. Think about how important this is. If you are literally, if that's your life force energy center and it's being drained by things that you're watching or casual affairs that you're having, where you literally open up your energy field to take on that person's demons, that is why you're not where you want to be in your life. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow, because I lived that life for years, trying to find the one, which is, by the way, another belief that's programmed in us. And I'm not saying there isn't the one and, you know, perfect person out there for us. Some people have found them and they're very happy, and that's great for them. But to keep an entire species of human beings chasing a dangling carrot with the belief that there's only one person out there for you, what a great way to control people, especially keeping them in toxic relationships with beliefs like, oh, every relationship is hard work, or I'll just leave this toxic relationship to go find another one because they weren't the one. So now I have to go back on this journey. And instead of thinking about all the people I can help, instead of thinking about how I can live up to my full potential, instead of saving the animals on the planet or looking at our food supply system and teaching the younger generation practical tools that may actually help them in life, I think I'm going to go over here and pursue this relationship that is clearly wrong for me. But if I work hard enough at it, then maybe they'll prove to be the one. I had to brainwash myself out of finding the one, and I've been happily single for close to 2 years now. And that doesn't mean that I haven't shared love or had great experiences and some not so great experiences in my love life, but I literally don't miss it at all. And I've seen my life grow by leaps and bounds just by conserving my sacral energy. So if you've never tried the no fap or the no, conserving your creative and sensual energy to yourself, I highly recommend it because it's the fastest way to get your creative projects and your life off the ground running. First of all, your energy field's not going to be tangled with somebody else's where you start to feel responsible for them or you don't know what's yours and what's theirs, and then you're picking up all their toxic behaviors and it's in your face all the time and you're like triggered by it and you're like, well, I'm not going to date a partner that smokes, but I'm going to stay with you because I love you, and it creates cognitive dissonance and like this hell on earth thing in your head. And I'm not trying to like hate on relationships and say that they aren't worth working towards. They are in the right sense, but you have to be with another enlightened being who understands this just like you. It's not going to work if you are with somebody who literally has no sense of spirituality and they're literally a slave to all of their addictions. I used to have a savior complex and think that I could save everyone and influence everybody to not do those kind of things anymore. And that's another trap that a lot of empaths get in because we feel responsible for somebody else's emotions and we feel responsible for their healing journey. And it's in our nature to want to help. But you have to learn the difference. Like I did, we have to learn the difference between those that we can help who want our help and who are open and receptive to it versus those who don't give a F. And how do you find those people? You get out there, you live your truth, you speak your truth, you find what lights you up, you go out to the world, you do it, you burn that fire bright, and the people who need you are going to be drawn to you like a moth to a flame. That is how we find our tribe, find our people, and share light codes with each other. So I didn't really talk about the article as much as I wanted to, but the whole gist of this video talking about human design and how it's important to know your body type. A lot of people are not living according to their type, so they struggle with feelings of bitterness, frustration, anger, fear, and just depression. Like they don't know how, I don't know, it can be a game changer to understand your type. It can help you a lot with personal boundaries, and it can help you understand that every relationship is unique and beautiful and has something to teach you. And your energy is better channeled towards appreciating the unique aspects of your relationship than trying to change something about someone that you cannot change and you don't have the authority to change. Because there's so many people who want to stay with a narcissist or stay with somebody under the guise of I'm a healer and I'm an empath and I'm going to change this thing about them. But some things about people just can't be changed. So acceptance is the better route if you want to conserve your energy and live up to your potential instead of distracting yourself by a toxic relationship. And I'm only speaking about this because I was a person for many years who hid behind relationships and acted like I was some healer and felt like I had a responsibility to heal other people. And that wasn't untrue. I do feel that strongly, but I was channeling my energy into the wrong people, places, and things that didn't necessarily want to hear what I was saying. And then I felt devalued and I felt like my energy was being drained because of this sensual relationship. It absolutely was being drained. And then it took me years, like a, failure to launch type situation, because I was using my mental energy elsewhere. So I have included some links in my description for you to look up your own human body graph, because I believe this information should be accessible to everyone. I charge for readings because I charge for my time and energy, and I have 5 years of experience teaching. I absolutely love it, and my head is like an encyclopedia. I know so much about it, so I feel like it's a personal gift of mine to look at a chart and really be able to match the person with the energy and see where their blocks are. So if you want to pay for that type of experience, I also offer readings. And if you don't have the resources, I understand too. So I've included a book and also a free human design chart generator for you. Most sites, I don't think I have yet to find one that gives you a free interpretation. So you're going to have to do some Googling, just like I did in the beginning, to find out what it all means, or buy a book for $20. And that, you can go read it, which is how I taught myself too. So I hope this information has been helpful. And if you're interested in that Illuminati article, I'm also putting it in the description. And people probably don't have time to read 500 pages. So I might do future videos to tell you exactly how bad this mass programming is. And they're trying to warn us. So I don't believe in talking about these things because I'm trying to spread fear about people being programmed. I believe that anything nefarious that is happening is there to teach us and to help us connect back to source and find our own power. So my goal with my videos is not to leave anyone in fear or think that, oh God, all this stuff is out of my control, I'm being programmed. My goal with these videos is to show you how to spot something and then show you how to take your power back and how to be in control of your energy field and thus your life experience. So thank you for joining, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.